What up, what up, what up? It's your boy, LN.
Hey guys, so I got some good feedback from Lauren Conlon and Lane Norton and the questions that were posted on my Instagrammage. So I'm going to pick a few of the questions out that were kind of directed in general or at me. And let's go with TLS22. As calories are depleted and cardio, especially HIIT cardio, is increased during contest prep, is it important to increase BCAA supplementation to reduce muscle loss? Well, the question is, how much amino acid supplementation were you doing previously? I don't suggest increasing it only because I suggest having it at 5 grams between meals and 10 grams during training all the way throughout contest prep. So I wouldn't specifically increase it during contest prep, but for that reason. Now, if you weren't doing any and you start to notice muscle loss or atrophy or anything else going on in contest prep, low energy, then I would suggest adding in amino acid supplementation. It's a good way to spike protein synthesis while on a low calorie diet. All right, let's go with what is your favorite, Breck81, and Lauren actually answered this one as well. What is your favorite go-to meal during prep when calories get low? I think for most of us, when calories get low, volume becomes important. So for me, I'm a big lover of egg whites. The reason because you can eat a ton of egg whites scrambled and it just makes a big volume of food. I also like low-fat popcorn, a lot of volume for very low calories. Get some fiber in there too. Joseph's pitas. So there are some things that Lauren liked that one. She forgot about Joseph's pitas with the flaxseed oil. So yeah, I like Joseph's pitas because they're, again, I think they're like 11 carbs per pita, and like 8 carbs, and 4 or 5 of that is fiber. So you can really load those things up, make little pizzas on them or tuna sandwiches.
Breck81 says, everyone's fave go-to meal during prep when calories get low. So me and Paul kind of talked about this earlier. I'm a little bit different than him. My favorite meal is whatever's fastest. When I'm prepping and I get pretty lean, meal prep is almost essential just because I don't want to have to think about food. So that's what actually is like my favorite, just because I'm really tired and lazy when I'm prepping, versus now I'm put way more thought into my food and don't have to really worry about it. But I would definitely say, I posted actually this on my Instagram the other day, and I eat it still now, the zucchini noodles. So you can use zucchini or squash, and then I got this little thing from like Bed Bath & Beyond, and you basically put the zucchini in there and then you like twirl it and it looks like pasta. So you have zucchini, and then you can cook it, you know, with sauce, no sauce, whatever. And you cook it like pasta, season it, and it kind of takes seasoning really well. And then you can add whatever meat you need. So that's just pretty much veggies and then whatever seasoning. And if you choose to use a tomato sauce or just tomatoes in there, it's fabulous. Same thing with spaghetti squash. You can kind of season it really well to anything. I find like a variety of flavors. You can do like Italian, you can do Mexican, and when you're dieting you feel like this is real. So those are probably my 2 favorite like volume foods. You know, big salads are obviously go-tos, and then when things are desperate and you really need a little something for dessert, yasso bars are the go-to move.
Cody Boom Boom, respect. The best way to use DUP throughout the week if you cannot squat heavy at that time, but can still deadlift bench, main goal being hypertrophy overall. So daily undulating periodization does not mean lifting heavy. So it's a philosophy of training where you undulate your intensity each session. There's no rule that says you have to lift in the 85 to 90% range. Well, that's what I would consider heavy. So if you're only able to lift heavy on those other 2 lifts, I would just undulate your pattern differently for the squat. I would have you doing maybe 60 to 70% undulation, and if you're doing 3 times a week, maybe 60, 70, 80, based on what you are able to do. But there's no reason, unless the specifics of your program require you to be lifting heavy, that you have to do heavy stuff when you're doing daily undulating periodization. So just understand that it's not specific to powerlifting. Omar, Mission Gains, respect again. How to retain as much muscle mass as possible when unable to train for a period of time, recovering from an operation. I'm gonna hand this one off to my buddy Lane, right here.
So I don't know what the operation was, so I can't specifically say, but what I would tell you is that if you can do any training at all, it will help you. So even like walking will help you. So if you can't do anything at all, then don't do anything at all. But if you can do anything, it'll help you. One thing you can do is even if you've had an operation where you can't do any activity, you can still blood flow restrict intermittently. So you could do cuffs on for 2 minutes, or I'm sorry, cuffs on for 5 minutes, off for 2, on for 5, off for 2, on for 5, off for 2, on for 5, off for 2. And do that like 3 times during the day. And they've shown that that will actually attenuate muscle loss more than if you just did nothing. So that's one aspect you can do. Now if you can do any training at all, like if you just walk, you could do walking with BFR for like 5 minutes on, 2 minutes off, 5 minutes on, 2 minutes off, 5 minutes on, 2 minutes off. With walking, and that's even better, okay? Then if you can actually train a little bit, like let's say you've had an ACL reconstruction or something like that, you can train using 20% of your 1 rep maximum on leg extension, leg curl, those sorts of things. And now again, talk with your physician, not a physician. Your specific circumstance will be important. But yeah, if you can train light, using blood flow restriction is a great way to retain muscle while training very light or even not training at all. As far as nutritionally, I recommend eating at maintenance. So you're going to limit fat gain, but you're also giving yourself enough calories to recover. And then things like HMB, branched amino acids, things that reduce protein breakdown, those can also be useful to supplement with when you're in that situation.
Hanksta24 asks, how do you calculate your macros properly before you start macro dieting? The best way to start tracking your macros and make sure you're doing them properly is to plug them into either a calculator, if you're new school, or if you're old school, track all your food on an Excel spreadsheet and do that for 3 to 5 days, maybe even a week. The important thing here is you don't want to change what you're doing because you know you're tracking it. You want to eat as if you would, eat freely, and then you can kind of gauge what your caloric intake is through that. Using the calculation of age and weight and training, that's all good, but that's a calculation based on a lot of data points. You're not a lot of data points, you're a single data point, so it's best to get actual factual data based on what you're actually doing, and that's what me and my friends do as far as when we assess a client, is we get actual information. What's the difference in training would be between women aiming for bikini aesthetic versus a figure aesthetic? This is Mandy Verduin. Mandy Verduin, I'm going to let Lauren answer this one for you. Go, Lauren.
And I love this question because I've done both. Obviously, I succeeded better in bikini, but I still used to train like a figure girl for at least 3 or 4 years. So the biggest difference would be the density, pretty much overall, but specifically back and quad density. So for bikini, you don't really need a big back. You need, some muscle mass, definition, but they're not really looking for a thick back or a wide back. Whereas in figure, of course, you're looking for the V-taper, and the thicker your back and the wider your back, the better that looks. Same thing with quads. If you're really quad dominant in bikini, that's not necessarily a good thing, whereas in figure, you really need large quads to fill out. So the way I look at figure is more of the overall package, whereas bikini is a little bit more selective, specifically shoulders, glutes, hamstrings. Of course, you need everything there. You can't never work out your back or your arms, but it's not really the focus. Whereas when I did figure, I did a ton more back volume, a lot more direct quad training, and just upper body in general. I pretty much get as lean as I did when I did figure, maybe a little bit less, but overall the looks are very different. The training doesn't have to be vastly different, but you need to just focus on things more.
All right, this is a long question. Rob's Clean Cooking. I'm aware that you prescribe the 80-20 or 90-10 ratios of whole food junk, but I wonder if you could comment on the recent move towards green supplements. So I guess what you're suggesting is that you don't really worry too much about your whole food consumption. You just focus only on macros and then supplement with a green supplement and some multivitamins. To me, a lot of the stuff that comes with dieting or anything in life comes down to, is it better? It might not necessarily be bad for you, but is it the best option? So when you're going to diet and be in a contest prep and have some physique goals, can you get away with sugary foods and possibly low fiber diet as long as you're hitting your macros? You can probably get away with it for a while. But long term, I'd still rather stick to whole foods as the primary source for your macros and micros. And if you want to add in a vitamin, multivitamin, which I actually do recommend, or a green food supplement on top of that, I'm all for it. But I would hesitate to have someone just eat a diet of Pop-Tarts, whey protein, and psyllium husk for their fiber. It just seems like you're trying to work the system, and at the end of the day, what are you really getting out of it? You know, is it the best thing for your physique? I'm not going to say no, but I wouldn't do it myself, so I wouldn't suggest my clients do it either. Mr. Persistence, those are great usernames. Peak week for a natural athlete. Should they water manipulate? Load early in the week, then taper down the water, no water 20 hours before stage. Would greatly appreciate an answer. Hell no on the no water 24 hours before stage. If you have to resort to pulling water out of your diet or out of your intake, it's because you're not lean enough. Get leaner. If you are lean, if you are truly stage lean, the body is not going to hold water in the interstitial layer. The fat cells are not there to support that. So just get leaner.